another podcast about Godzilla and all his giant monster friends.
This could be the end of civilization.
Yeah, probably. So join your hosts, Chris Ciccini and Chris Casares.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you're listening to the podcast. From Odo Island. And welcome to the podcast from Odo Island. I am Smooth Chris, and with me as always is Volcano Sacrifice, Slick Chris.
Thank you for that. Always a nice warm introduction.
I got a lot of these locked and loaded, so it's a thing. So
it's good. It's good. The gimmicks are good.
Gimmicks are good, and this episode we are finally delving into the Legendary series. But first, before we get into that, I can't put our listeners through another moment of this podcast without talking about the OIWF, which you can find on Odo Island Pod on Twitter.
Yes. Yep. We launched a very prestigious tournament in the Odo Island Wrestling Federation, as you said, at Odo Island Pod on Twitter. The Nick Adams Cup concluded over the past week in between our episodes here. What should be, one of the most prestigious prizes in the industry, the, figure kaiju wrestling industry, that really large, overpopulated industry. The Nick Adams Cup symbolized by this silver Godzilla lighter from the 80s that I think actually still works, but, was on the line. Should have been a fantastic contest between Trendmasters Anguirus and NECA King Kong.
A true David and Goliath story here.
It is, but listen, Anguirus is technically the most winningest figure in the OIWF when you actually break it down. But we did not get a classic outcome for the ages. What happened? Break it down for us.
Well, bullshit happened, Chris, and I for one can't figure out why Sting let this all happen. Number one, but number two, we had ourselves a great contest between two of the a new up and comer and one of our most popular stars, and what happened? Bullshit. That's what happened. We couldn't just keep it one-on-one, could we? No. Trendmasters Gigan has to come in and start his little garbage off, and then, the other guy with the thing, he comes in, and I'm just very upset at this. I'm so upset with these people.
Trendmasters
congratulations,
Gigan,
Trendmasters Anguirus, on winning the Nick Adams Cup, though.
Yeah, Trendmasters Gigan cold-cocked NECA King Kong with a tank from behind, allowing Anguirus to take advantage and secure the pin. The Trendmasters of the universe got us again. They now hold the OIWF tag team titles, as well as they now can count the first ever Nick Adams Cup in their ranks. Really, they got us again.
How many times are we going to let them get us, guys? Come on.
But to wrap up the OIWF segment, the other big news story in the OIWF is that, as we talked about last episode, Playmates Gigan is physically holding the OIWF world title, but he stole that from Bandai Titanosaurus, who's the rightful champion. They will meet in between this episode and next episode, and I believe Bandai Godzilla 1974 is going to be the special guest referee for that one. So we will have more of that on our Twitter, and we will have more to report on that next episode. But I think that Bandai Godzilla figure is gonna call it right down the middle.
I was gonna say this is when he was a full-fledged babyface. He was a hero. Kids loved him. This is Godzilla in his most righteous and most pure form. So I have a feeling this will get the job done here.
So that is the latest in our figure wrestling federation that you and I have a lot of fun about, and a growing number of Twitter users seem to take a very odd fascination in. So, but in excuse me, in other news. We got another.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Yeah, we got another Godzilla vs. Kong trailer this past week.
Yeah, Godzilla got a little offense in. I was like, "What? Huh? What? What's this?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah, we got the Japanese version of the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer. Made the rounds. It wasn't too different. It kept using kind of it was in kanji for the most part, but in between would refer to Godzilla as God of Destruction, in between some of the scenes where you get some the text blasts. But for the most part, it wasn't too different, except for one really cool new scene that has been quite a popular scene across the internet. If you would like to break that down.
Well, what happened was. Everyone knows about the Kong punching Godzilla thing that we're all excited for, and we finally got it at the trailer. And it looked like Godzilla kind of just took the hit, and, that was that. But it looks like there's more to it. He looks like he takes the hit, and then comes back with an overhand of his own, and he just clobbers Kong and knocks him down with it.
Slaps him.
Very satisfying.
Just slaps him. Just very Rick James, what the 5 fingers say to the face. Slap.
Unity.
And so now I really hope that Godzilla vs. Kong is all about Godzilla discovering cocaine and just being an asshole for the entire movie, and then towards the end, Kong smashes Godzilla with the axe, and he's like, "Why'd you hit me, Kong?" And he goes, "'Cause you hit me, man." And he's like, "That was weeks ago." And he's like, "No, man, that was earlier today. I hit you today, Kong. I'm sorry." That's what I worked out in my head. It's going to essentially be the Rick James episode of the Chappelle Show. That would be fantastic.
That was weeks ago. Oh, that was a great sketch.
Godzilla discovers coke.
Charlie Murphy.
Godzilla discovers coke and becomes an asshole. I mean, it explains a lot of the trailer, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, that could be it. So, that was, but that on a kind of taking it to real commentary here, it is hysterical to me that that punch scene has now been teased for. I mean, it feels like forever, but it's really just been whatever. It's been a couple months or something like that, and it's they kind of tease that punch Kong throwing the punch scene is oh man, he's gonna take Godzilla's head off, and then as you got more of the clip, you're like, oh okay, Godzilla just kind of takes the punch and kind of staggers, and then taking it a step further, not only does he just kind of stagger, he turns around and just smacks Kong upside the head and sends Kong flying. I was like, well, that's that's hysterical to me that was the payoff to that.
Yeah, very enjoyable for me as well, because watching the trailer the first time, I was like, oh boy, Kong looks very strong in this. I don't think Godzilla got on any offense against Kong, except for, the boat scene. And, this was fun to see. I mean, it was still the boat scene, but it looked like more offense, so... Well, not so one-sided.
Yeah.
I still think Kong wins.
Maybe even more jazzed for the movie, which,
yeah.
Like I kind of said last episode, I was, before that trailer dropped, I was kind of well, if it comes out, it comes out, at this point, but, those 2 trailers, I was like, all right, no, I'm hyped up for this now, so, ready to go.
100%. But that wasn't the only trailer we got. We also got a new Pacific Rim Black trailer.
Oh, yeah. We got, I think between last episode and this, I think 3 different ones have dropped. but
we got more of a look into the plot of Pacific Rim Black, and I'm looking forward to watching that. It looks interesting. Yeah. Didn't give too much away, it didn't look like, in terms of the monsters. Or the kaiju.
The thing that struck me at the first trailer was they kept saying that it was taking place in Australia, and there was, like, no Australian accents, and then, like, in, like, the latest trailer that dropped, like, I feel like everybody had, like, a thick Australian accent, and I was like, oh, okay, there it is. I was like, this is, like, you almost brought, like, Aussie Man Reviews in to kind of fill in for those accents, but I was like, okay, now I get you.
So you were like, why doesn't anyone sound like Billy Kay?
Joking me. That was bad, but yeah, looking forward to that too. That's now just about 3 weeks away, right? I think it's like March 4th or something that starts. I think
I forget, but yeah, I think it looks pretty promising. Just something to watch. I'm not the biggest anime guy, but I can watch it, so I will.
I recommend, if, depending on how that goes, I don't know, if you ever need time to fill, I know you haven't really gotten into Ultraman, but the Ultraman anime on Netflix was pretty good, and I think season 2 of the Ultraman anime is going to be on Netflix later this year, I think. So,
I feel like
it was fun.
I feel like eventually this podcast has to cover Ultraman, so I feel like I should probably start watching something having to do with it. So, I pretty much have just seen parts of Ultra Q, which is like the first series, the first Ultraman series, some Ultra 7. Pluto TV has Ultraman Leo, so I watched that at the beginning of the pandemic quite a bit, and then the anime. So, but yeah, we'll cover that at some point. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did any other noteworthy trailers come out that we should discuss?
No, we have been fortunate to have like a ton of trailers dumped on us lately. I think that's all of them, right?
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
yes. A lot of good podcast content. Keep them coming.
Yeah,
but
I guess we should just get on with it and go to the movie.
Yeah, this is our start of our countdown to Godzilla vs. Kong. We're going to do the legendary Monsterverse in release order, starting with Godzilla 2014. That will work out timing-wise perfectly for the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. So there you go. There's some long-term planning right there. You're going to get the whole Monsterverse covered through this pod.
Some geniuses booked this one.
Yeah. So we are starting with Godzilla 2014. I was trying to think about like how to like kind of best approach the background to this, and I think maybe I think what I kind of came down as like kind of cover some of like the marketing and the build up to it, and then before we get into the movie, I think it'd be kind of cool to talk about like because now we're talking about very modern movies, right? So it's like we can kind of go back in time and kind of remember like what our initial thoughts of like Godzilla's design, the Muto's design, the marketing and stuff. So, but to kind of set it up a little bit, so when this came out in 2014, the final product that came out in 2014 had kind of been the end result of a handful of script revisions from like 2007 to 2014.
Very different from some of the promotional material that came out for this.
Yeah, so when Legendary, or ultimately when the rights from Bano, who was the director of Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, were ultimately sold in 2007, like, the writing process kind of started, and like some people kind of say that like elements in this movie were kind of pulled from like the abandoned like 1994 Godzilla movie that never got made prior to TriStar. I don't know. I don't know about that, but the closest to a fully realized script was done in like 2012, and wasn't like the same sort of basic story was kind of there. Like there was, a lot of the human characters were kind of in different roles, and like Brody and Ellie weren't husband and wife. They were like brother and sister, like, children to, like, the character that goes on to be, like, the Bryan Cranston character. But the Mutos were essentially the same. They kind of had different nicknames based on, like, where they appeared, like, you know, kind of similar to, like, how everyone calls, like, Kamada-kun, because he appeared in the Kamada War. And so, like, there was, like, I forget exactly what it was. It was, like, the Hokkaido, like, there was a Muto that appears in Hokkaido. So, like, its name was kind of based on that. But I don't know, most commonly cited difference was that in the 2012 script, they were going to find a Godzilla corpse in ice at the beginning of the movie, and that was omitted because I guess there was a similar scene kind of going on in, I don't know, one of those Zack Snyder Superman movies at the time, that Man of Steel. There we go. That was so that's kind of the most common thing that is.
Also, it would have added to Godzilla's screen time in this movie. We just can't have that.
Godzilla was also originally, that first draft of the script was supposed to be 600 feet tall, not the 350 some odd ish feet that he is in the 2014 version. Which change I'm happy with. Don't make your monsters too big. I like them, you know. 300 feet is 300-ish feet. I think is good for me, but that's just me.
No, I would have liked it if he were the size of how big he was in the poster.
I guess that's basically what he was, right? So, but yeah, you kind of touched on it with, like, the way the marketing around it. So and also kind of probably the thing we should probably, like, kind of try to. I'm kind of curious, like, to see what your thoughts and memories are in this, but there was that Comic-Con trailer that leaked, which I shouldn't really call it a trailer. It was kind of more like an announcement piece where essentially it shows, like, a wrecked city, this, like, random beetle-like creature is dead, and then you get, like, a big poof of smoke, and you kind of get a partially silhouetted, like, Godzilla, like, roaring through the smoke while Oppenheimer is giving his, like, kind of famous monologue over, like, you know, what everybody was thinking about when they were first testing atomic bombs, like, in World War II and stuff like that. Which, I mean, it's a great mood trailer piece, whatever, like, you want to call it. But I'm kind of curious, when you saw that back in, that was probably like 2012 or so, 2013. Yeah.
Because during that one, you're in, like, an office building too, and you look outside and you see Godzilla's face, and you're like,
right.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they actually reused some of the assets from that trailer, like, in the movie, like, here and there. Like, that building that has, like, the big hole gashed in the middle of it, that got, like, reused for something. But I don't know, when you saw that, what were your, like, initial thoughts of what little we saw of Godzilla's design in that?
Well, I thought finally America's making a Godzilla movie and we're going to get it right.
Yeah, I was like, boy, this seems a little bit of a overcompensation for the 1998 one.
The 1998 one, like, we were young, so we didn't know, like, really, like, what to expect and whether it would be good or bad.
Yeah. But,
like, now that this movie came out, we were turning 30. No, I was already 30 when this came out. So I was already an adult, already knew what was good and bad. So, but, like, the years leading up to this, it was like, 3 years worth of promotional stuff getting me hyped for this movie. And
we also got 2 mobile games. I don't know if you played either, but we got it was Godzilla Strike Zone was one, which was I guess you can kind of call it a first-person shooter game, but, like, you essentially take the role of, like, one of the military characters who's doing the Halo jump, which, like, so much of that initial marketing was based around, like, the Halo jump scene. And essentially in that mobile game, that one wasn't very good. You, like, Halo jump into, like, San Francisco. Like, it looks, I mean, it's a movie promotional game, but I feel like even for that, it looks bad. And, like, you basically go from, like, you basically go around and rescue, like, some trapped civilians, like, here and there. But I remember I played that, and I was like, when it came out, I was like, this sucks. And then there was another one that was it was it was Godzilla Smash 3. So like, do you remember like back then there was like the mobile game craze was kind of like connecting like colored orbs and stuff like that together. Like it was it was just, I think it was not like, what the hell was it? I don't know. There was like a huge mobile game, like one of the biggest mobile games like ever had that sort of mechanic, and it was like it seemed like every franchise was kind of getting a clone, and that's like what this was. It was like you played as Godzilla, and like you advanced like through like kind of waves of enemies, and to defeat them, you had to like match 3 tiles, similar looking tiles together to do your moves and offense. And that one, I actually was able to find a way to download it to my Fire tablet this past week, and I started replaying it, and it's actually super fucking addictive and super fun. And it's ultimately you kind of hit a paywall, but which not gonna give that game any money, but especially a bootleg copy essentially that I have. But I was like, oh, this is actually really fun, and the graphics are like pretty good for what it is. So yep, we got that. And
I remember that this is the first time we really got a sense of like what the movie was going to be about was when the trailer came out for this. And I don't know if you remember, but it had like the music that they reused for this movie was like the chorus, like
yeah,
the very spooky thing. And they jumped out of the airplane with the red strips coming down, so it all looked it had a mood to it. Everything was very red, and it was dark, but it was like still colorful, and you could see everything. And you finally got like your first look at like what Godzilla looked like, and you're like, oh yeah, they knocked it out of the park. Look at this cool design that they did. Finally, like we got a good looking Godzilla here, and it really got your hopes up for this movie. Like very high hopes.
Kept it as much wasn't really kept in as much mystery, the design, as it was like back in like 1998. Like they weren't as like protective as and again I almost, and I feel like I probably said this way back in our very first episode of the 1998 one, is that like I feel like so much of the marketing and the build to this movie was like a response to how the 1998 movie was handled. I remember Gareth Edwards like was like doing an interview with like someone's like, is he going to use like his radioactive breath, because we haven't seen him use it in the trailer or anything? And he's like, yes, he's going to use his radioactive breath. Yes, it exists in this movie, like because it didn't in '98. So, but I just remember going, all right, this is a huge like overcorrection from 1990 with like this huge bulky design, a cool design, just like a hugely bulky, jacked up design, and the trailers, but then there's
I was gonna say it looked like it was taking note of every complaint that everyone had from Godzilla 98, and it was like, okay, we're gonna fix all that. And so you went into this movie thinking like, all right, this is gonna be like home run, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think you are setting up your feelings on this movie pretty good. So let's.
Am I?
I think it's a fairly long movie. It's about 2 hours and change. We don't need to like dissect it to the most minute scene by scene breakdown, but I think we probably should take this in like chunks, as we've been doing. It's. I don't know, it starts cool, right? Like that opening credits scene and whatnot, like that's all well done.
It's actually very similar to how Godzilla 98, the opening credits are. I think they reused some footage.
Yeah, you get like the film grain over it, and the explosions, and there's no iguanas, they're just trying to blow up Godzilla. I like how everyone is trying to figure out why Godzilla is being an asshole, Godzilla versus Kong, and I was like, literally the first movie of this whole franchise starts with you guys like talking about how you try to nuke the shit out of him in like 1954. Like, I mean, do you think he's your buddy? Like, because your relationship started with you trying to kill him. So he was just kind of doing his thing. So, I mean, maybe you need to check with him how he views your friendship, humanity. But
yeah, like it starts off good enough. Like I thought the opening whole sequence to set up the human aspect for the movie was all fantastic.
Yeah.
You have basically Bryan Cranston working as an engineer in a power plant in Japan, a nuclear power plant in Japan, with his wife and son, and they send the son to school.
Big old neighborhood, living like 5 feet away from this giant nuclear power plant that gives off a lot of smoke into the air.
If you've ever seen Naked Gun 2.5 and like seen some of like the joke commercials they made for some of the energies like nuclear, there's a family like barbecuing with a nuclear plant in the backyard. And like it's that basically. It's this is hilarious.
Like the way like that community they live in is like how I think like Springfield is set up in The Simpsons, where it's like you get this whole entire community around like a nuclear power plant like 5 feet away. So, like,
they are The Simpsons. Bryan Cranston is a not stupid Homer.
He's Frank Grimes. Or Grindy, as his friends like to call him.
And Marge works with him at the plant. So yeah, they're going to work. They have a big day ahead of them, and he's like, "Can you get down there and make sure this is set up so we can make sure that I don't sound like a crazy person when I'm trying to explain it?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." But what happens is there's an earthquake or something happens, and there's like radiation being leaked, so they have to get out of it. I don't want to give that away yet because
I see,
because they think it's Godzilla actually, but it's not. It's something else. So they're trying to run out, and they're telling Bryan Cranston to shut the doors, and he's like, "No, we have to wait." And then he sees the radiation coming, which I'm pretty sure radiation's invisible, so he sees it coming, but I think it's just for effect, so he can scream. And as he shuts the doors,
it was the smoke monster from Lost, is what that was.
But Bryan Cranston watches his wife die, and the blast doors are shutting, and he did the right thing, obviously, but he paid a heavy price for it.
Yeah, all the Bryan Cranston stuff is fantastic. He is so head and shoulders above everybody else in this movie from an acting standpoint.
But then a little while later, you see the nuclear plant sort of not blow up, but it just sort of implodes.
Yeah.
And so Ford's watching this from his school. He can see the nuclear plant clearly, and so all the Japanese people are very much like thinking, "Oh God, this is going to be an explosion here." But thankfully they don't have to deal with that. But yeah, that sets up the movie. So Ford's lost his mother, and I forget Bryan Cranston's name in this movie. I just call him Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, let's call him Bryan Cranston. I think it's like
so
Joe
he's lost his wife,
like that, but.
And that sort of sets up the movie so that it starts 15 years later, and Ford is in the army, and he has this very, very niche job where it allows him to basically be everywhere in this movie that he's needed, and his skill set is like the exact thing that they need. Yeah.
He's from the Plot MacGuffin squad.
Exactly. They probably the most research they did to this movie was like, what job could he have?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, his skill set is like disarming. It's like disarming bombs, which also somehow gives him a skill set to retrofitting bombs. And I don't know. I'm not very familiar with job skills in the military. Maybe that is like. There probably is like an actual job, right? But it's like in this movie, like to your point, it's like there's like always like kind of like a weird throwaway line where they're just like when he's in Honolulu, they're just like, oh, well, he's like the only guy in like 200 miles around here with this skill set, and then it's like he gets back to like the mainland. They're like, well, he has to go on this like mission because there's just literally nobody else with this skill set around for days. Just days.
I did enjoy how towards the end of the movie, where he's trying to get on another mission, how the officer he's like talking about. He's like, I'm this guy, and I know these things about bombs, and the guy's like, is this the part where my jaw's supposed to drop? I was like, you and me, bud, you and me.
So I guess while simultaneously they're being introduced, we're kind of getting our introduction to Monarch, which is kind of like the overarching, which I don't know, I thought this movie was almost kind of painting them out to almost kind of be like a shadow organization, but I feel like their role changed, or that tone anyway of their presentation kind of shifted as the Monsterverse goes on. But we get Ken Watanabe as the new Dr. Serizawa 2.0.
Yes.
And he is kind of like going to be like the human character through line, like through like these movies. And again, like they're kind of painted as like they're an organization, but like they're not part of the government, but like pseudo working for the government, but like they're also like kind of, well, I think we were kind of getting there, like, like the whole like nuclear power plant now is like a quarantine zone that like they've kind of set up this like massive research center around. And I remember like kind of like the promotional material and press interviews and stuff that were done with like, oh, Monarch is going to be like, the like this like organization kind of like pulling the strings. I kind of feel like it's like the way they were painted, and then it's like I kind of feel like as the Monsterverse goes on, they're kind of like the good guys of the story, but the overarching story, I guess. But
I guess maybe pulling
really,
the strings.
Know what the deal was with them, but in this movie,
I was going to say, I guess maybe pulling the strings is more along the lines of them, like sort of like having those quarantine zones put up, and while it's sort of like lying to the public, it's for the greater good. So it's shadowy, but it's also like in the world's best interest. It's not evil or mischievous. It's mischievous, but not evil.
Yeah. I guess what I was going with that was like I kind of felt like they were promoted as like a shade of gray organization, and then they're just not. They're just the good guys. And this is all kind of with having hindsight now of like the Monsterverse has been out for a while and we've seen all these movies, but now I was like kind of like thinking going back to watch this, I was like, oh, like I wonder if they're going to pick up like more like clues of like development that like maybe I missed like whenever I used to watch this movie before and whatnot. And I was like, no, they seem like a very like underdeveloped idea to me in this movie. They kind of feel like an underdeveloped like organization, and I don't think like I kind of feel like they probably didn't really know where they were ultimately going to go with them like at this point in time. And I think they were just kind of hoping this movie was going to be a success, and then they're like, well, we'll fucking figure it out. We'll figure it out after that.
But I don't want to delve too deep into Monarch then if we're, if they're not even a focal point of this. But like basically since Bryan Cranston, like we know about Ford now, he's Mr. Everywhere in the Army. Bryan Cranston is simultaneously like still in Japan and sort of like a recluse and a hermit and sort of just like going into the quarantine zone to try to like find his old discs in his house. And like he's getting arrested, so Ford's like just returning in the army to like see his wife and his son, and like the next day he has to go fly to Japan to pick up his dad. And so the dad convinces him to come to the quarantine zone with him, and like he's like, oh, the air is breathable, like it's not there's no radiation here.
Not like, I'm sorry to like interrupt you there, but I feel like even though it's been a well shared nugget of information, I feel like I'd be really remiss if I didn't mention that like when Brody goes to the airport or Ford goes to the airport in Japan, he was supposed to like have like they filmed the scene of him having his like passport checked or whatever. The customs officer he deals with is Akira Takarada, who is Ogata from the original 1954 Godzilla movie. And like that was supposed to be his cameo in the movie, and it was cut. And like it was like kind of controversial because like Gareth Edwards like posted pictures like on social media of him with like Akira Takarada like filming that scene and like holding like a little like Godzilla banner, and everyone's like, oh my god, this is great. And then like Legendary made the decision to they were just like, we gotta like, when they were like editing the movie down, they cut that scene. And I remember it was it caused quite like the fan backlash stir, for like what it's worth. Like they were like, basically you did him dirty. And like I remember even Akira Takarada like was kind of like disappointed that he was cut. I think that scene has since been either dumped somewhere as like a bonus feature or online, but anyway, I just wanted to get that little. If people who were listening didn't know that little nugget, that Ogata from the 1954 movie had a cameo in this movie that was cut. But sorry.
so the editor did something shitty, you say, in this movie? Okay. But anyways, yeah. So they're in Japan and they're trying to get the discs back, and they're arrested again. And this is where Bryan Cranston and Dr. Serizawa are finally in the same area. And so you see Bryan Cranston through like the glass window. He's going off like, "I have a right to know," and you're like, "Fuck yeah!" Like this guy is just like, this is such a great setup for this movie. And Serizawa is there, so you're thinking like, finally, when these two start sitting down, these two are going to figure it out together. And then what happens is like the Muto finally, who's there at the site, like has absorbed all the radiation, so he's like calling out to see if like he can get a response, and he finally gets one. So he wakes up and he basically wreaks havoc on the site there, and it's a pretty great scene too, because like at this point there's been like zero action, and when the Muto wakes up, it's such a good scene. Like Ford's in the van and it gets flipped over and he's dumped out, and then you see Bryan Cranston, he's running through like the thing or on a bridge, and he sees the Muto like waking up, and like he gets sort of like knocked down and stuff, so he's all injured and stuff now. And so the Muto eventually flies away because it has wings, and Bryan Cranston dies.
Yep. I remember watching this movie in the theater, and like so much of the trailers and promotional material is like, "Oh, Bryan Cranston's the star of this movie," and then there's like, there's like, like he's like in the gurney in like one scene, like, and then like the next time you see Bryan Cranston, they're just zipping up the body bag, and I was like, "Oh, he's dead." I was like,
so it was so far so good up until that point. So the first real major mistake was killing off Bryan Cranston, because now, but like at least Serizawa has his information, so it's a Gareth Edwards movie. Didn't he do Rogue One?
Yes.
All right, so
yes.
Character fulfills his purpose and dies. Got it. Makes sense. He has a track record. So he's gone now, which is a disappointment. So now you just have Fords, who's up until this point has displayed zero emotion at all. He's in the army, which is the perfect job for him too, because he's just an emotionalist. Just, it's real hard to get behind him. I feel like he's a good guy, and he's like saves a kid, but he's just a blank sheet of paper as a character. Yeah,
he's I don't know if it's the actor or the character or what, but it was like, I remember like,
it wasn't the actor's fault.
Yeah, it was just like, he was just so dull as like a character. Like,
name one of his personal interests.
Yeah, his like little soldier action figure that he like rescues from. That's not even like a personal interest, but yeah. Yeah, like he's just so like dull of a character. He's like, it was like, I remember like watching this going like, wow, I was like, this dude is like dull, and Bryan Cranston's dead now, so you're saying like he's gonna carry the movie now? I was like, I don't know about that.
He's so dull that Elizabeth Olsen, his wife, does not even have a picture of him on her phone when he calls.
I mean, could iPhones do that in 2012? They must have been able to.
2014, this movie
well, the movie came out in 2014, but they're probably filming it for 2 years.
Yeah, but anyways, so we finally see the Muto, and so it's leaving. So Ford's they're shipping Ford off to Honolulu to fly home now. Basically, it's like a pit stop because they talk to him. They want to know what any information his dad had about like the Muto, because they don't know what he knew basically. And so he's like, yeah, he was studying it and like kind of looking into it because he thought something might be there. And so we get to Honolulu, and finally, about an hour into the goddamn movie, we finally see Godzilla.
Yeah.
He causes a tidal wave when he's coming out of the ocean, which was weird because he doesn't do that in San Francisco. Kind of.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a MonsterVerse gimmick as like when it's convenient, I suspect.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But we finally see him, and it's awesome. He's popping out of the water. He's you see like the reddish glow of the water beaming off of him. It's like everyone's shooting at him. He roars. Everyone poops their pants. And then we cut to the airport. So, you're saying cut to a lot. The Muto is in Honolulu now, and it's sort of wreaking havoc on the airport, where Ford is trying to fly home. So, the Muto's beating up the tram that they're on, and he saves a kid, and Godzilla shows up. And they cut to Ford's son watching it on the news.
Yeah. This is going to be a recurring theme through this review is the cardinal sin this movie keeps committing is, for the first, 2/3 of the movie, cool monster stuff is starting to go down. Yeah, rather than show it to you, we'll show it to you, in the background of some other scene on a TV. That's that's what we get.
So it's like you see Godzilla's foot come down, and like everyone's screaming and hollering, and they see his foot come down, and everyone just stops and goes, "Oh shit!" And then you see Godzilla square up, and you're like, "All right, here we go." It just cuts, and it's Elizabeth Olsen telling him to stop watching the TV, and then she watches it, and as soon as she watches it, it's over. Scene's over.
Yeah, I would have tolerated that once. At most, but it happens 3 or 4 times in this movie. Not just with fights, with the Mutos appearing in various areas. In the
they really tried to make it so the action was backloaded in the movie, but I mean just have a little bit more. You didn't have to do much more there. You could just make it so the Muto tries to get some shots in on Godzilla, and Godzilla's too powerful for him, so it flies away. And then you're like, oh, what a pussy. And then it's over, so Godzilla just leaves. You could have that. You could show that. It would only take 30, 40 seconds, and it wouldn't have cost that much. But nope, we got to cut away because everything has to be at the end because this movie is Jaws. And that's the only part of the movie that will have any action. We'll show the monsters at the end, and this is where I started to say not every movie has to be Jaws.
Yeah, I think
this movie
because what kind of comes from here, right? Now you start to get the female, they discover the female Muto has hatched or has broken out of where it was. Enclosed and it attacks Las Vegas, and it's you get the one scene of the female Muto breaking through the casino, and then again you kind of now get the Muto's rampage in Las Vegas being shown in the background of TV screens of
right
Ellie Olsen working as a nurse in the hospital, and you see the monster attacks in the background. And I will say one thing I did appreciate about that, and I remember we talked about this the night we saw the movie, is that I'm a big Elvis Presley mark. Actually, I realized I didn't even plan this. I'm drinking my beer at my Elvis Presley koozie, and as a big Elvis guy, I was pumped that we got an Elvis song in a Godzilla movie, because Devil in Disguise is playing during, also a fantastic Elvis song, Devil in Disguise.
Yep.
Is playing in the background of, the aftermath of, the Muto's Vegas attack. But, yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. This, I don't know, this was never, a movie that I don't know, I didn't, well, I'll save my review comments or ranking comments for later, but it's this movie would be so much better if you just gave a little bit more in those scenes. You didn't have to give a ton more. Just give something though. You want to do this pull away thing, this gimmick, yeah, fine. It's cool. I get it. It's an artistic thing. You're trying to kind of build some payoff to the end of the movie when you get an uninterrupted scene, but But I think this movie needed a little bit more in those like scenes. Like, I'm not saying you had to do the whole thing uninterrupted, but give us something.
Because here's the other thing too. This movie was in production for years. So we'd been like that Comic-Con thing. We knew this movie was coming at least 2 years in advance. So that's a long time to wait for Godzilla. And now we're watching this movie, and this motherfucker's making us wait for Godzilla. Like, come on, man! Like enough. We've waited 2 years. Enough's enough. Just give it to us.
Yeah.
And so, like, even if we didn't get any more Godzilla, and just got more Muto stuff, especially in Las Vegas. Like, that would have been something. But like, they show the Muto heading towards Las Vegas. They show one of the Muto's legs coming through the ceiling, and then they show helicopter footage of the Muto after the destruction's already been done and the Muto's leaving. You're just kind of like, all right, this is not enough. Like, this is the bare minimum you could do to, like, show destruction. Like, the very least you could do. And it's all so that they could shoehorn in more of, like, what's Ford doing? How's Ford getting to his next adventure with the army to track these monsters and fitting in? And, like, so he shows up after the Honolulu thing. He's like, well, I need to get back. I'm trying to get back home. I'm part of the army. Like, all right, well, we're heading back there, so you can come with us. Fine, makes sense. But then he's like, oh, now that I'm home, instead of going back to San Francisco, I'm going to join this whole team because I can defuse this bomb. And, like, they let him in and they let him do it.
But I'll say that they're loading that nuclear missile to kind of like as like bait. They've hatched a plan where they're like, okay, we're gonna get the Mutos and Godzilla out to sea, detonate it, hopefully kill all three of them. But which obviously doesn't work because like the male Muto comes and like, you know, attacks the train and steals it. But I'll say like that scene though, like that like dark nighttime like train attack by like the male Muto stealing the warhead and stuff. That's actually I think that's one of the scenes that works like really, really well in the movie. Like, I love like that part where it's like the male Muto kind of like flies over Ford and like the other guy like on the bridge, and then like you just kind of hear like some like machine gun fire and explosions, and like the train comes like into the shot. Was like that on the fire. Female Muto? No, that was the male stealing it for the female Muto.
Because wasn't that the scene where you see all the eggs?
No, because that was the male Muto stealing the warhead to give. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. I was thinking of the submarine with the male Muto. I was conflating the two there because they kind of happen like back to back. But yeah.
You see like the big sack with all the eggs in the female Muto in that scene. I just remember thinking like, oh, that's so gross.
That sort of stuff. I mean, I guess now this kind of takes us to like the San Francisco climax. Like, there's some stuff that was like kind of filmed in this movie that like, granted, like that I'm going to reference the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie, which was not a very good movie in my opinion, but some of those like scenes at the beginning of the movie, like when the alien like tripods are attacking, I thought was like awesomely done. And there was like some stuff in this movie that kind of like almost seemed like reminiscent of that, like to me. That train part was one, and then, you know, when kind of, I guess it's a little bit of jumping ahead so we can backtrack, but like when the male Muto like first appears in San Francisco and like launches like its EMP like in the sky, and like all these jets just like fall out of like the sky, and then the male Muto comes out of the clouds and like dive bombs like one of the boats and stuff. And then I was like, oh my god, it's like that's so well done. Like, because like at first you just kind of get like you get this like view of like one of the Navy guys like in his ship, and it's like the EMP blast just kind of goes across the scene, and it's like it's quiet, and then like the planes just start falling out of the sky, and then the Muto like dive bombs. I was like, it's fucking fantastic. That was like, that scene was great. And I think like Godzilla appearing in the bay was great, but it was also like, wait a minute, you have all these tanks and all these like, you know, naval cruisers like in the water, and there's a ton of civilians like on the bridge still, and like and you just kind of randomly start shooting at Godzilla while there's like a bajillion civilians like still on the bridge, and Godzilla actually kind of saves them all. Saves the civilians for the most part.
Not only that, but like they're also like preventing civilians from getting through.
Right? Yeah,
like, they're holding things up.
That was like a thing that was like that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me as to yeah, that seems. I don't know who you consulted with on that plan, but they should probably not have whatever job it is they have. But but then we do get, I'll set you up for what do we get next? Another cutaway, right?
Oh yeah, because it's daytime. It's daytime. So that scene where you see Godzilla, like Elizabeth Olsen's going into the shelter and she looks up and you see Godzilla roaring. Well, that scene isn't in the movie. Instead, you get Godzilla about to fight with the male Muto who's flying into Godzilla. So you get a cutaway of another fight. And it's just like, oh yeah, you get to see it from Elizabeth Olsen's perspective. So she sees the doors shut, and then that's it.
Yeah, that was actually a good reference. That was a good reference you made there, because like while Godzilla's design was not really well hidden, or was not meant to really be hidden, the Muto design was like pretty safeguarded during the promotion of this movie, and that's a good point. Like in the trailer, you get an earlier shot of Godzilla roaring in that scene. That's actually Godzilla fighting the male Muto, and I don't like. I remember actually thinking like, yeah, it was daytime, but it was like rainy and kind of like overcast, and I didn't think like the CGI looked bad or anything like that in those scenes. Like I kind of wish we got like more in that sort of environment. Like it looked good for the amount of time it's going on for. That was too bad. We kind of missed out.
The only time we could get an extended Godzilla scene was when it's pitch black out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess it does take us to the fight, which I think the final fight is good. It's just sucks you didn't really get too much leading up to it, I guess.
So we got 2 years of build up going to see this movie, and we got 2 hours building up to this finale. And what happens? The Mutos just beat the shit out of Godzilla for
we're like wrestling fans in this podcast. Babyface has got to be in peril, right? Like. It's a 2-on-1 handicap match. The heels are getting the heat, and Godzilla's like holding his own through the whole thing. It's not like King of the Monsters where King Ghidorah just like basically kicks the shit out of him like 1-on-1 towards the climax. But I was all right. I was all right with the booking.
Well, that's because he stepped on the power plant and he got supercharged.
I don't know who the agent was for this matchup, but I didn't have a problem with the booking. Personally.
So eventually, like the Mutos are like trying to birth their offspring, and so they have like the nuclear bomb like with them and everything. So Ford and his gang are basically blowing up the nest. So basically, they're beating up Godzilla, and they both have him down. And then they blow up the nest, and so the female Muto runs back, and she's all pissed off now because all the babies are dead, and they're trying to get the nuke back to the boat, and basically like Ford passes out right near Godzilla, and like they both like see each other like kind of like beaten up and down.
Oh, can I add something to that really quick? Because this is funny, because like this is actually my notes that I made from like when I rewatched the movie last week. I was like, Ford passes out a lot. Like, I think there are 3 separate, like, so he passes out. He passes out in towards the beginning of the movie when they're in the quarantine zone. He passes out after the train attack from the female Muto. And then he passes out again in the climax. And I was like, he probably has like 10 concussions. Like he's like, I was just like, he is knocked unconscious like a lot, and it all happens like if you think about it, probably in the span of like 2 days, 3 days. This movie probably plays out over, or at least like from the quarantine zone to like San Francisco. It's got to be what, like 4 days at the most, right? I was like, dude, you got like concussed like at minimum 3 times in in 4 days.
He needs to hook up with he needs to hook up with Tom Brady or Russell Wilson to get some of that concussion water.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he needs some water and some avocado ice cream or whatever. I mean, his last name is Brody. That's not too far from Brady, right? I mean, But sorry, had to add that in there.
But then, we finally, after long last, get like a 3-minute fight scene where Godzilla just tail whips the male Muto into a building, and it's awesome. The building crushes down on Godzilla. He eventually gets up after the female Muto catches up with Brody on the boat, and then you finally see the atomic breath.
No, you got it once before this. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I remember like that. I remember when we saw it in theaters. The initially used the atomic breath got like applause from like the crowd that we saw it. A concept I don't really understand, but you guys do you if you want to clap at a screen.
Applauding movies, like when a movie ends and you start clapping, if the people who didn't make the movie aren't in the theater, fuck off. You know?
We don't really need that. I don't get it. But hey, you want to do that, do you? That's cool. But I mean,
you don't mean it, I do. But I'm a jokey guy, so people can laugh at it if they want. I don't care.
I remember like that got applause, and then the famous kiss of death scene as it's been come to be known.
So but you did get the atomic breath earlier, and that was cool. But then you got the it was the Mortal Kombat fatality, where Godzilla just opens up the female Muto's mouth, atomic breath into it, rips the head off, and I'm just like, well, that was a pretty satisfying end to that fight.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla has the head like a trophy, just tosses it. It's like, and then he passes out, and Ford passes out because they're kindred spirits, I guess.
And he gets up, all's well, off he goes. To I don't know.
Godzilla's a hero.
Savior of the city.
They turned a babyface real quick.
Yeah. So that was a good walkthrough of the movie. I don't know. I guess maybe kind of discussing some before we get to our rankings. I kind of want to get your thoughts on some aspects of this movie. I guess with the Mutos, like, did you like the Mutos from like a design standpoint, a villain standpoint?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah.
Zero complaints on the Mutos.
Yeah.
I've heard people complain about their design. I've heard people complain about how they wish it was another monster more familiar with the series. I'm glad it was something new and different. I think a lot of the times Godzilla does rely on King Ghidorah a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And Mothra a little bit too much. And it's cool that we got like that movie and like this generation of movies. But now that we've had it, I'm glad we have like other monsters to sprinkle in there too.
Right. I agree. I had liked the Muto design. Like, when, I hate to like kind of make it about this when people are like, oh, it should have been like another Toho monster. I was like, well, take it up with Toho, who like they charge an insane amount of money to license their monsters. Like you don't just license Godzilla and get the whole Toho roster. Like you got to license them all separately, and like the common the common thing that a lot of like American and companies like say when they're putting out like Godzilla media, they go like, well, we didn't have these Toho monsters because they're really expensive. It's really, really expensive and doesn't make a lot of sense. So, I think the off comparison with the Mutos, like they're almost kind of like the legendary version of Gigan in a way, which I can kind of see because they kind of get like the visor eyes and they get like the hook appendages, but I think the male Muto maybe more carries some Gigan appearance traits, but the female Muto in particular to me like kind of looks like almost like a sleeker Cloverfield monster in a way, like except like you take away like that bulbous head and like replace it with like a Gigan Gauss from the Gamera series like combo, but I think they're I think they're cool designs. I think they're presented really well. I think they
I like their story too. Like they're reaching out for each other, and like they finally get a connection.
And it's a little.
They go to meet. Like
it's more developed, like in the novelization, and some like the other supplemental material, and it's covered in this movie too. It's like, but like they are a species that like they lay their eggs in the corpses of Godzilla's species because of the high radioactivity, and that helps like their eggs grow.
Right.
And it's like that's like a cool concept. And in the official novelization, it like it actually offers an explanation as like why Godzilla's ray is like not as like strong in this movie as it goes on to be. Even like before there was like a question of that. It's like it talks about how like particularly with the female Muto, like the female Muto just constantly emits like an EMP field, and because of like the Muto species, which I mean Muto's not, but because the Mutos like and Godzilla's species are just like kind of rivals like for centuries and centuries, like the Muto's EMP field has evolved to weaken Godzilla's radioactive ray, and like hence why it's like it's not used as much. Like the novelization kind of covered that, like when we weren't even like looking for those answers, and I thought that was kind of cool backstory and stuff. But I think they're worthy additions to the Rogues gallery, but I don't know how much more we're going to see them. Right? There's no reason to like. I thought like Godzilla versus Kong would have not going to spoil anything or leak anything, but like. But I think it's very apparent that like there are probably no Mutos in Godzilla vs. Kong, and I was like, oh man, it's like maybe like Godzilla. Once upon a time, I was like, maybe Godzilla vs. Kong is going to have like Godzilla and Kong fighting a whole like legion of skull crawlers and Mutos. And I thought that might be cool, but so I don't think we're going to be getting that anymore. I feel like the Mutos now that like a lot of other Toho kaiju have been brought in, I kind of feel like they're going to be relegated to kind of background cameo characters, but it's too bad.
you kind of got a different Muto in King of the Monsters at the end, just for the finale scene.
You just have one that's just kind of there, And
right?
They did they did a graphic novel where Godzilla fights another Muto to kind of explain like why like his dorsal plates look different from this movie and then King of the Monsters, and but I feel like that's like where the Muto is going to live, right? It's going to be like expanded universe graphic novels and stuff like that, and cameos in King of the Monsters. Like I feel like they're probably not going to be mainstays again, which I think is too bad. I feel like if the MonsterVerse continues, like I would like to see them kind of come back and kind of, like you said, you can't rely on King Ghidorah all the time. You gotta build some new stars.
I think every generation of Godzilla movies should have at least one King Ghidorah movie, but I don't think it's something that like really you should rely on for multiple movies like over and over and over again.
Yeah,
I think you got to get your Orgas in there. You got to get some other monster that's like new or unused or underutilized, or something like that. Like Final Wars with Gigan, awesome. Like
right.
They updated his look, made him more menacing, really cool. And that's cool too. If you bring back an underutilized monster for like another round, that's good. I'm cool with that. But I would like to see more of the original stuff, and I think the Mutos was a step in the right direction there.
Yeah, and and the last thing I'll say about King Ghidorah, like yes, King Ghidorah is super fucking cool, like one of my favorites too. But he always kind of, I feel like now it's like a little bit more. Oh no, I mean he always kind of gets pinned as like, oh, it's Godzilla's arch rival and most deadliest foe and all this other stuff. All I'm going to say is that who has more wins over Godzilla than anybody else? Well, it's fucking Mechagodzilla, like many times over. So
yeah,
I will just leave that there. But I don't know. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say we'll talk more about King Ghidorah and others later. But in closing, I think when James Rolfe, AVGN, reviewed this movie, he said something that always kind of stuck with me, and I kind of half believe. Like, this movie fixed everything that was wrong with the Godzilla 98 movie, but in doing so, kind of created a whole slew of other problems.
Yeah.
Like, too much cutting away. you killed off like the best character you had early in the movie, and all that you were left with was sort of like one-dimensional, like characters who were there to deliver like punchlines, basically.
Yeah,
and a guy who and a sort of like a soulless character who didn't have like any. They made him purposely bland. It felt like, so that way anyone could feel like they could relate to him. I think.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they just had a really bland character.
Yeah, I think.
But
I think that all that's very. Yeah, that's all like the right criticism of this movie. I think, I guess as we kind of get
if let me finish, where I was going with that was he talks about how it fixed all Godzilla 98's problems, but it created a whole bunch of its own, and in doing so, kind of hurt the movie to the point where I'm almost like, is Godzilla 98 a better movie than this? And I'm almost there. Because it's like, I feel like Godzilla 98 is probably like more fun to watch based on characters in the movie. Like you get Hank Azaria there, you get Harry Shearer. Like it's a funner cast that's there throughout the movie. Like they don't leave.
Yeah, this is I guess like kind of the getting into the ranking discussion, like kind of like the topic discussion question I kind of want to pose to, because like I kind of think about, because obviously so many of these Godzilla movies came out before like we were born and whatnot, and then like the hazy 90s era we kind of grew up as like kind of like an overarching story arc and whatnot. Like when I approach this movie, I kind of think of it almost like in the MonsterVerse in general, I kind of think of it as like kind of two different things. Like what do I think about this movie and execution wise, which is one train of thought, but then I also go, okay, the grander concept of Godzilla the character. Like, do I think they did Godzilla the character right? Do I think the characterization is right? Which is kind of removed from the execution of the film and just kind of more how Godzilla's portrayed. If that makes sense, what I guess I'm kind of getting at. Because like that kind of plays into like the MonsterVerse as a whole. I mean, putting the movie in directorial decisions like aside, as more like kind of like an abstract character, like where do you come down on how Godzilla's characterization is, and then I'll kind of come back and give my thoughts as well.
Yeah, I thought as far as Godzilla is portrayed, fine, no problems at all. They kind of did the old, like, he was born out of nuclear testing, and we tried to kill him with a bomb, but it didn't do any good, and now we have bigger bombs, so blah, blah, blah. But, like, overall, like, the look was there. It looked scary, yet very cool. They had all his powers, or most of his powers there. They didn't overdo it right away. They didn't make it so you saw the atomic blast. You just got the beam and the tail whip, and that was enough.
Yeah.
So they got the character right, but the biggest problem is they kept on cutting away from the action, and you really, in the end, you didn't get enough Godzilla in the movie called Godzilla. It's like if you order a burrito and like, give me like grilled chicken and cheese and rice and beans, and then you get it, and all that's in there is rice. It's a tortilla wrap. All you get is rice, and there's like one little hunk of chicken in there with a little bit of cheese and a little bit of sauce.
I guess when I think of like how Godzilla's portrayed in the MonsterVerse as a whole, and in this movie too, like to me, I feel like this is kind of like this Godzilla. I feel like to me is like closest to like how Godzilla was kind of portrayed in somewhere kind of between like Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla versus Hedorah. Like, he's not like the unrelenting, over-the-top John Cena style babyface, but he's a little bit more like the Shades of Grey babyface. Not Shades of Grey, but he's just kind of like he's like the cool anti-hero babyface, which like works. That works for me. Like I thought I was like, okay, like, you kind of promoted it. Gareth Edwards would keep saying, oh, we're taking him back to like his force of nature roots or force of nature characterization. And I go like, well, that's like, the force of nature Godzilla is the Godzilla of 1954 and most of like the 80s and 90s. Like, he's not the force of nature thing. I know you keep like throwing these dialogue lines in of like, well, he's here to restore balance in nature. It's like, no, there's like personality here. There's like charisma here. Like, I mean, like he has like a weird stare down with Brody in San Francisco. It's like there's more like a human characteristic to it. I was like, he's not force of nature. He's like kind of more like your anti-hero becoming full-blown superhero Godzilla of like the 60s into the 70s, which is cool. That's like my favorite Godzilla, but I don't think it nails it, but I was very happy like that's the style of Godzilla we got. But then on the flip side, Shin Godzilla comes out 2 years later and I go, yeah, this is fucking Godzilla, like as pure as it comes.
Yes,
and this doesn't have that.
I think Shin Godzilla really took this movie and said, close, but this is how it's done.
Yeah, Shin Godzilla just I hate to like kind of compare the two because again, I always say like the more different interpretations are good.
Remember when I scared you with my ranking and I said it was a 3 plus 2 equals 5?
So that's that's yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but then I guess I'll just kind of segue into like my ranking because I feel like it'll kind of just flow naturally if you don't mind. But,
sure. No.
Characterization is Godzilla as a character is great. The building of the world is good.
It started off
in the sense
good.
Of like
the first half hour, I'd say, was good.
Yeah, but now the execution of the movie itself, as a whole, doesn't do it for me all that much. Like I kind of said to you offline, there's so many like good, visually striking scenes like throughout this movie, like the San Francisco Bay stuff, like the most of everything the Mutos do is visually striking and really entertaining, and a lot of the stuff that Godzilla does is very cool and striking. And then, but yeah, that cutaway business and like the killing off of Bryan Cranston and then kind of leaving the movie in the hands of like this super underdeveloped protagonist and like kind of leaving Ken Watanabe as Dr. Serizawa as kind of like a side character. Like, you could have the rest of the movie fall to him, and we would have got more out of it.
Right.
I just don't think I think there was a lot of like, I think the story is very good, but I think, the vision that the story was funneled through, impacted it to, like, I think in the hands of somebody different, like this would have been a completely, we'd be ranking this movie so much differently than I think we're about to rank if there was a different director's vision around this story. Is that am I making sense? Like where I'm kind of going with that? Like,
oh yes,
I think creative decisions are what not killed, but hampered like an otherwise like what should have been on paper a fantastic story and movie.
Cyrus, this is your barbecue and it smells good.
That said, I don't hate it. It's just in the pantheon of 35 Godzilla movies, soon to be 36, like, this is like a mid-tier movie. It kind of falls like in a mid-tier zone somewhere for me. Like, this would probably be like somewhere like in like the, I don't know. If I was ranking it, probably somewhere between like a 17 and 20, lower 20s some odd ranking of movies, which to me makes it like a 3-star mid-Carter movie to me. Like,
I was going to say, so on our 1 to 5, it's going to be a 2, 3, or 4. So
yeah,
you're giving it the old 3.
Yeah, the old 3. It's not a jobber. It's not a lower mid-Carter. It's a mid-Carter to me. It's just but it's probably in the back end of like that mid-Card range. Which is too bad because again, I feel like in the hands of a different directorial direction, I think we would have had a very different movie. If same story with different creative vision, this could be like a 4 or 5, But I think
easily.
The execution of the movie itself is is the problem. So that, which is too bad, but
Yeah.
So what do I know? It was a hit. So
if I'm ranking this movie, like, look, I remember the advertisements for this movie coming out, the Comic-Con thing. I'm very excited for this movie. Very excited. I don't get excited for movies often, but I got excited for this one. And I had very high hopes for it, and it just did not live up to expectations at all. All the cutting away, it was just, at a certain point, like, you see how people behave online and like comment sections and stuff, and like one of you fucking edited this movie, didn't you? Like you're just troll. You're just a troll. Like that's all you're doing at this point. You're not trying to make a good movie anymore. You're trying to piss off the audience. Well, piss off you did, and the movie suffers for it, and it doesn't have much replay value after you watched it one time. I'll be honest with you. It's not a 3 for me. I'm glad we can get back to normal, and I can be more cynical than you. It's a 2. It would have been a 4 had it been executed better, but all the cutting away, the decision to get rid of Bryan Cranston 30 minutes in, holding back Godzilla for as long as he did, and then not delivering on him until the very end of the movie. Really bad choices. Hampered it. It's a 2 for me. And if I'm wondering what wrestler this is Sin Cara. A lot of hype, and then it finally shows up, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
To be clear, not the Hunico Sin Cara, the original Sin Cara. I guess to kind of wrap it back as to like, what do we know type thing is like.
Well, this is just our opinion, so if you don't agree, you can.
You're the only you're the only friend I have that's counts themselves a Godzilla fan, but a lot of our mutual friends have seen this movie and like they all like really liked it. so it's like maybe we weren't the audience. I don't know, but it's like the disclaimer we always put out, like when we don't like a movie, like we're kind of doing this like for fun. Like like it all you want. It's all. You
can disagree with our opinions. These are just opinions. So don't.
No, you can't.
Don't take it personally if we don't share opinions. It doesn't mean anything. It's nothing personal on our end. So it's all just how we felt going in and coming out. So
yeah, I always want to be clear when we're negative on a movie. We're doing it from a fun place. I don't know. Yeah, that's all. I always put that disclaimer on when we give a bad review to a movie because it doesn't mean that like it sucks and you can't enjoy it.
Right.
Like it just means we didn't like it. But also, if you weren't what we were thinking, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So that's it's only upwards from here though because we will continue or maybe I showed my hand a little bit as to my thoughts on the next MonsterVerse movie that we will. I feel
like we've sprinkled enough
Kong Skull Island. But
I feel like we've sprinkled enough over the past couple of years that we've been doing this to let people know that we both liked Kong Skull Island when it came out. So we have to rewatch it to see how we feel about it.
I liked it. There is an aspect to like. I will show my hand a little bit. There are so many things I love about Kong Skull Island, and there is one. Which I don't think we really discussed because I didn't realize you hadn't even seen it yet. But like, there's one aspect of the movie, and like in my head, it's one particular scene that drives me up a fucking wall, and I go like, "What?" Like there. I'll just say there were 2 characters I could cut from Skull Island, like, and I think the movie would be an instant like 5-star movie with those 2 characters cut. That is my that'll be like my tease for my thoughts on Skull Island in the next episode.
I think I know who you're talking about too.
It's like I just go what the fuck you mean? This feels like a parody or something like that. It's like all of a sudden like wandered into this movie. But that's next week. We got other business to talk about.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, you know what? We ain't going to play that game this week. I got a question for you. Did you get any figures, you son of a bitch?
Oh, my word. My word! I sure did. I woke up one day.
Sorry, that was a little aggressive. I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna fix it up for everybody right now. So I woke up one day, completely unexpected, and I get this text message.
Fractured childhood. I'm sorry.
I get this text message, and it's like, "Hey, check your mailboxes for a early birthday gift." And so I wasn't expecting it at all, but I go outside and I look and I go,
"Oh, wait! The day this drops, though, is your birthday. So happy birthday!"
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm old and I haven't accomplished.
You son
anything.
of a bitch.
But I got this Trendmasters Anguirus sitting in my mailbox, and I'm just like, "Oh, this is fantastic!" So I text you back, and I'm like, "Oh, thank you," and I show you my eBay, like the previous items that I looked at, and one of them was a Trendmasters Anguirus. So I was researching, to get one. So you solved that problem for me.
Yeah, that's that is like the kind of like de facto mascot of our wrestling figure federation. But
if I were into these figures back when I was like, when they came out, wouldn't they come out like 94, 95?
Yeah, Anguirus came later, but yeah.
Okay, but if I was into these like back then, these would have been awesome for me. Like I would have loved them. But I was into like Power Rangers at the time, so I got those toys. But yeah, this is such a cool figure. Like Anguirus is on 2 legs. He's all jacked up. He's definitely on the gas.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, he's on the gas.
he's on the gas. He's doing the strongman gimmick up north with Vince, and just a cool figure.
Yeah, he's got I guess to kind of piggyback off what you said, like your eBay views were like, it was for the anniversary variant, which is like all like kind of like an ice blue and gold. Yeah. And like a lot of those like kind of I guess would you say about those are about like 3 inches, 3/4 inches, that figure.
Yeah, these are both Hasbro.
Yeah, Trendmasters put out a ton of those, and maybe we'll be discussing that in more detail in about 6 weeks. But they put out a ton of those, but then there's like an anniversary collection that came out. I forget exactly which anniversary they were celebrating of Godzilla. It must have been 45, whatever. We'll clear that up again in about 6 weeks. And a lot of those 3/4 inch figures that don't have like any articulation got limited edition color variants. And so that's like the one that you were looking at. But this one is by far like the much cooler color scheme and design. Like Anguirus is like black and purple with like yellowish, off-whitish spikes. Just so cool looking.
Yeah, he's like a greenish, grayish black. It's a good color for him.
Yeah.
But
happy birthday!
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate this a lot. It was a very nice gesture of you. But I also got some other stuff going on. So, as our old IWF fans know, I'm sort of the one behind the Cursed Order and doing all those video skits. And so, Space Godzilla and Destroya are on a recon mission right now. But I got Space Godzilla back, so there he is, Playmate Space Godzilla. I got him for a decent deal, and it's, the body's actually not bad. It's got that, distinctive Playmate sort of like matted downness in parts of his body, like his shoulders, and almost like it was like designed normal, but then it got stretched out to have the spikes.
Mm-hmm.
The fins are all white for some reason. They couldn't get any sort of definition in there for paint. And
do you realize that they've been painted with whiteout like mine does?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it looks like they were made out of white plastic and nobody ever painted it.
Yeah.
But then he has the Kurt Angle mouth guard from 2006.
Yeah.
And that's really where like the fun stops. Like he's black instead of blue. Like it would have been cooler if they made him blue, but I'm okay with it being black. But the mouth is just too much.
So mine has like in the eyes, mine has like weird black dots that are almost like pupils. Does yours have that?
Yes, they have little black dots.
Okay.
They're not fully centered either, so
Oh boy.
it looks a little goofy, but honestly, not the worst figure they have.
Yeah, no, I think it's from that era of Playmates. I guess we're now calling it that era of Playmates. It's like mold is good, but paint job is bad. But I don't know. The worst thing about that figure is like the lack of teeth.
Yeah,
he just has a mouth guard.
It's just really weird how they let that go. I'll never understand it. But last but not least, I am a NECA boy, and I picked up the boxed Shin Godzilla version 1. So got that guy.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
You have the bubble container version of this, right?
Yeah, because I bought it when it first came out. This was actually one of the first NECA figures. Actually, it's might have been the first NECA figure that I ever purchased. Was this one?
So I'm holding it up to my phone camera. I don't know if you can tell, but the reason I'm doing that is because it's very red. I don't know if yours is this red. Like,
oh yeah. It
looks way better than I remember it looking when I saw your figure. I thought yours was more black with red sort of striped in, but like even the black is more red.
Your dorsal plate's like a little bit more red than mine.
Okay.
But the body is...
There's an orange paint to the inside of it, but then the plates themselves are red. And
oh, okay. That does sound a little different than my old version, so...
So I feel like they might have
yeah, maybe they did make a little cosmetic... Yeah.
But
yours looks more...
I was going to say, the head still has that weird, like, Super Mario Brothers movie Goomba look to it, where it's not exactly right. You know, like the bottom jaw just sticks out a little bit too far. But it's not bad. It's just, I don't think they nailed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think with, like, to me, it's like the neck goes into the head at like kind of like a weird angle, and I think that kind of means like the jaws kind of the head and the jaws kind of sit like in a weird kind of position, and like then you have like I think, or at least in the bubble one that I had, the original Ren one that I have, it's like the first dorsal plate is kind of like connected to the head as opposed like to the neck, so it's kind of like it just like the head. It's the issue with it is like the head. It's like the head does not like sit right on like his neck, at least in the sense of like how it's like looks in the movie. It's too angled forward in a way, but it feels like it should be, I don't know. The head should just be set a little further more on top of the neck, and I feel like the neck is more like just, I don't know, oddly situated, I guess is what I kind of keep going back to. But other than that, everything else is like good.
I'm looking at it, and like my neck definitely has like, it can sort of, I'm holding it up to you, but it can aim down low pretty far, but it can also sit upright pretty far too. Like there is some articulation to it where it can aim down or up.
It's like but I feel like where the head piece itself sits should be like set further back, so it's more centered on the top of the neck. But it's almost like you can almost kind of see how if maybe some other company took a similar mold but didn't nail it exactly right, you would get an awkward looking Shin Godzilla somehow.
Yeah, no, exactly. But overall, like I do like this figure. Yeah, 100%. You'll stop talking about that figure. But aside from the head just being a little bit off, like it still looks really good. And overall, like I think the aesthetics of this figure are much better than what I originally thought of it as. So I'm glad I finally got this one, and one step closer to sort of rounding out the neck is. Maybe by the next episode.
I'll say if you want to. I'll say if you want a good time, Google the NECA Shin Godzilla prototype and look at how much better that looks than that figure, in the sense of like all the stuff I said about the head and the neck. Like the prototype looked incredible, and again, it's still a very good figure. It's just like you look at the prototype and you're like, oh, what happened here? But
why'd they change it? But that does it for me. So what about yous? Did yous get those figs?
I did. I got two little pieces, or not little pieces. One is literally little, as I am a Anguirus acolyte, apostle acolyte, if you will. I'll have to think of a quirkier name for the fan club I'll start someday. I got Iwakawa is a company that made like a number of like smaller like miniature figures. I have a really cool Gulala one. They made this like series of like really super detailed like minifigs, and with like no articulation, and like they did kind of like painted variants and then like also chrome variants. And I don't actually have any of the painted variants, but I have these really cool like chrome ones of Manda from Archagon, Gavra, and what's the other one I have? Oh, Baragon from Frankenstein Conquers the World, where he's like actually shooting his fire and he's like jumping in the air. It's really fucking cool. But I was able to snag an Anguirus one, and looks fantastic. I sent you a picture earlier.
I saw the picture earlier.
It's like little mini
like
fig,
black, and it's got these white dots on
incredible.
The face looks awesome.
Yeah, it's like a chrome finish. Yeah, it's 1968 Anguirus, and these like little Iwakawa figures are just the detail is just incredible, like for what they are.
Yeah.
Regardless of the size, it's incredible. So that was cool. I'm out there scooping up all the Anguirus merch I can, but I'm not going to grab it and hold it up to the camera. But I sent you a picture earlier. I got a Gamera. I think it's Gamera 1965. It's a Showa era Gamera figure. And it's a Bandai Gamera figure from 1991, and it's again. This is that's kind of the beginnings of like, to me, like the heyday of like Bandai figures back in like 91 to like 95, 96 or so, and it is like a spot on recreation of like that Showa Gamera suit. Like you don't get a lot of articulation. Paint job is pretty good. Like it's like the front of his tusks are painted, but the back isn't. But or just not fully. But the mold is just like fantastic. Yep. And I would say he's like he's 6 inches, so like a little shorter than like what they would go on to be. But God, that era of Bandai was just so good. I've been wanting like that figure for a while, and I just happened to catch it on eBay for like a lot lower than what I normally see it listed for. So I snagged it, and I was happy to have. I don't have a lot of Gamera. I have a bunch of Gamera minifigures. I don't have a lot of full size Gamera figures, and I was happy to add another one to my collection because Godzilla is not allowed to do the job to Gamera. He can do the job to Kong, can't do the job to Gamera. But Gamera is still, it's an important part of the kaiju movie history, I will say.
I will say that I don't think Godzilla can do the job to Kong. I don't think that should happen.
I guess I'll clarify what I would say. Godzilla should not ever lose to King Kong, but I would not like there would be such like different emotional reaction for me if there was ever a Godzilla versus Gamera movie and Gamera won. I don't know what I would do.
I just imagine you breaking
really,
the TV.
It would be something. It's like like when like you start like a Nintendo Wii game. It's like there's the person throwing the Wii controller into the TV. That would probably be me.
You ever see people freak out when their team loses the Super Bowl? You ever see those videos?
See those videos? You mean hang out with like most of our friends, probably included you.
I don't not get mad at like people have seen me watch my team lose in football games, and I'm just kind of like, whatever. What I'm talking about is like there's videos of people on like watching like the Patriots beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and they like just smash their TVs. Oh, it's so awesome. It's the best.
Weren't you at my house? Weren't you at my house at that Super Bowl? I thought like one of our mutual friends was going to do that to my TV, and I was like, dude, fucking chill out.
No, I was watching it by myself at home because I remember everyone on social media was like, "Oh, Pats lose," and I was like, "You never turn off a Pats game." Like Mark Wahlberg left the game, like he was done, and I was like, "Nope, you never, you don't do that to a Tom Brady Super Bowl." And that was right.
Yeah, as we learned.
Ugh.
Anyway, fuck Tom Brady and other like future or other figure news. I guess where to start. I mean, there's we got. But I guess we'll start with something near and dear to me: the bag clips. We got as of today, we got two series of bag clips. Not only announced, but like they're like making their way out to stores. Like YouTubers had them like physically in hand and were unboxing and reviewing them. We got a Godzilla versus Kong one, which has Godzilla to that Monster vs. Godzilla, two Kongs, the Kong doll that we saw in the trailer, Skullcrawler, which looks a little fucking weird, the Warbat thing, some other Skull Island monster, and Spoiler is a chase, and something else is a chase that I was a little unclear as to what it was in the silhouette. But
I kind of feel like if I can give a little prediction ski here without spoiling too much, it looks like maybe something coming out of something.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So those looked really cool, but also we got I love the fact that there's a Godzilla vs. Kong bag clip series, and then like there's a concurrent series 3 classic series now. I guess it's being branded, and you can find like these bag clips like in Target and some of like hobby shops and stuff like that. Like I love these fucking things. Like they're like in the wrestling world, there's like the micro brawlers like that everybody loves, and those are really cool too. But like these are kind of like the micro brawlers of. Yeah, I like them, but at like $20 a pop, like I don't like them that much. These are like $6 a pop, so I like them a lot more. And like they're colorful and cool, and like they do like a really good job detailing them in the front and the back. And the classic series, I'm just jumping this off the top of my head. It's Godzilla 2000, which has purple spikes in the back, which I thought was cool. Yep. That they made sure they covered that. Anguirus, so I'm on board. Hedorah, Showa Gigan, Orga, Monster X from Final Wars, Manda with Artragon is the chase, and then the other chase was Shin Godzilla, which looked like fucking hysterically frightening from what I saw the unboxing. And I think there was another. Oh, Ibara was like the other one. I was like, all right, what? Oh, and Megaguirus. I was like, what a collection of figures. They all look great. I mean, these things must have taken off because like Monogram is the company that makes these. They make one for like every franchise now. Like I just like Seinfeld got a collection of these, and like they do Star Wars ones. They do like. I don't know, like classic Universal monster ones. Like it's just everybody, like every franchise has one by them now. So they must be like a thing now.
Do you know what they haven't done yet that they really need to do?
What's that?
A Nick Adams one.
Yes,
that could be our new Nick Adams cup.
The only human one they did was a generic Monarch soldier from Godzilla 2014. Which I have. But they did a Mandalorian one too, and I have the IG-11 and the Mandalorian ones, and those are really cool too. So I eat those up. I might literally order, not so much the Godzilla versus Kong ones. I'll probably just piece those together. But the classic run that they're doing, I may like literally order a box if I can find one. So, because I don't know, I love them. I think they're great. I display them all together, and they look fantastic together. They're a fun collectible. But
yeah, you like them, so rock out. I have the Minula one that you gave me.
Yeah, you get my duplicates. I had a duplicate Godzilla one that I gave to a coworker who has like a 3 or 4 year old daughter, and she's like gave it to her, and like that daughter has like no clue what Godzilla is, and then I got a series of text messages that night going like, oh, like now my daughter like wants to know all about Godzilla and wants to like, watch Godzilla movies now. So there you go. You always give the gift of Godzilla. So, but I kind of I kind of rushed through that and glossed over that because I think the thing that we're probably both more interested in is all the Playmate stuff that has been announced in the past week.
Yeah, I mean, lots came out. We've kept our nose to the ground on it. Why don't you explain to the old listener what we have coming up from our
sure.
pals
So the
at Playmates.
things, the stuff that we'll probably be getting by the end of the month in Walmart is going to be it's slated for like the end of February, beginning of March is going to be the Godzilla and Kong figures with like the light up eyes and roars. Well, with Godzilla, he shoots a projectile, a radioactive breath missile. Kong can swing like an axe, like kind of like an old Hasbro WWF figure. Those like I sent you a video like because they're out in China and like some people have started doing like kind of like figure reviews like of those. Like those look fantastic for what they are. And I don't know what the price point's going to be when they come out, but
I thought I heard something like 40 a piece, and I was like, oh, that's really high.
Yeah, but
they look good.
That was kind of like said like in passing by like a YouTuber, so I don't know if that's like accurate or confirmed. But yeah, they look really good. Maybe $40 a piece. Maybe I don't rush to buy both Godzilla and Kong. I think Godzilla looks a lot better because what I noticed like on the like light gimmick with Godzilla when he roars and his fins light up, I like that they don't light up like all at once. It's like they kind of light up in like different portions or different sections. And I think
from
that's
what I can
like
tell, though,
cool effect.
They did it in the wrong sequence, though. So instead of coming up from like the tail up, it looked like they just did it from like the head down. And I'm like, they could have just flipped them, Yeah,
well, like Legendary, I guess, kind of has like from the tail up, but in the Toho franchise, like it was always kind of like all over the place, especially in the 90s, like how Godzilla's fins like lit up. So that didn't bother me too much. I just thought it was cool. His eyes light up, he roars, fires a missile. Kong just has eyes lighting up and roars, but he has like kind of like that swivel, like, you put the axe in his hand, swing it, like kind of spring-loaded type action. And then there's like another figure coming out that I don't know too much about. It's like a power roar or something along those lines figure that looks like it's different mold of like a Godzilla who, I mean, I guess like going by the packaging in the picture, like it looks like he's kind of got his head arched up to the sky and roars. I don't know if like there's more of like a gimmick there to that, but yeah, those look cool. And those are like supposedly supposed to be out like any time now. So maybe by March we'll have.
Yeah, they look similar to the ones that they already released with the the darker skin color and then the blue transparent fins. Kong looks really upset. But yeah, Godzilla looks like his head is just pointed diagonally up. And I don't know if that's really going to be able to be changed.
Yeah, well, that's a different figure. That's like the power roar figure, not like the missile firing one.
The battle roar, yeah.
Yeah, or battle roar. There we go.
Yeah, the other one where the missile thing comes out, that's what I feel like Playmates' bread and butter should be. Like, you release those for $20 a piece. Like, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I particularly do like the Godzilla one. I'll let them get them both. I don't know if I'll get all of them because I don't know how many Playmates roaring light up Godzilla figures I need in my life, but I'll definitely get the one that shoots the missile. So you got me. You got my money on that one. And then the other one, which I think this is probably the line that's going to start being in Target, not just Walmart, but we're getting a Playmates Jet Jaguar and Burning Godzilla.
And
Playmates
these
figures.
like when you warned me, like, oh, Playmates has like these figures coming out, and I'm like, yeah, how good could they be? And I see them, I'm almost like, oh, these look really good.
They didn't look bad, and Jet Jaguar in particular, I thought looked pretty good. You know,
yes,
he has. He's doing, like, just to let you know, it's Playmates figure. He's not. His legs are not like straight up. Has to be in some sort of action walking pose in true Playmates fashion. Because God forbid you just have a figure standing upright, but that's all right. It still looks really cool, and you know, just like your Space Godzilla figure has to be walking.
Here's my Space Godzilla. He's walking.
Yep, has to be walking.
Only way to get the legs level.
But that's all right. I'm just happy we're gonna get what looks like a pretty faithful, good-looking Jet Jaguar figure. We'll see how the paint looks when it hits stores. Same thing with Burning Godzilla. The Burning Godzilla looked good.
I'm eager to get this one so I can compare it to my NECA one to see which one I like more.
Yeah, and you know, there's not a lot of getting back to Jet Jaguar. There's not like a lot of like Jet Jaguar figures out there. So,
but
like he's been very underrepresented. Yeah, you know, I think I bet that will actually sell really well too, because like Jet Jaguar, like, I mean, we are living in like a Godzilla like renaissance now, and a kaiju
That's
renaissance.
What I mean. Like, with Jet Jaguar coming back with Singular Point, perfect time for a figure. They were smart to do that.
Yeah, and he and I think Jet Jaguar being in Singular Point is like a testament to like in the comic books that like IDW did. He was like a popular character. The video games kind of made him cool because of like how fucking quirky he is. I think like Ultraman having a resurgence will. I think all of this like lends to Jet Jaguar probably selling like ironically really well. And the Burning Godzilla figure it looks good, you know, and again. You know, the pictures look good, but we will see how the paint, in particular, holds up when they drop. So that's always kind of got to be the thing. But Playmates trending in the right direction. You know,
if these are just prototypes, that's disappointing. But if these are what the figures actually look like when I get them, it's very promising.
You know, let's give props to Playmates. Course correcting on these things. So,
well, good job, Playmates. I feel like we're coming to an end here. It's been a good time talking about the first Legendary movie, but next episode we're going to the second Legendary movie in the monster universe, which is Kong Skull Island. You thought
Kong Christmas in February.
You thought I'd never seen this movie, but I have, and so I feel like we're jumping off into this on an awkward note. But I'm looking forward to rewatching this one because I haven't seen it in a while, and seeing if my feelings of how I originally saw it still hold true.
Well, that's great. Cool. Well. Do you have anything you would like to leave our listeners with who stuck around this long?
Yeah, enjoy this remix of the Godzilla song I did.